This is the way it feels to move through summer in Lululemon. Iconic Align softness without the front seam. For our smoothest look and feel ever, summer won't know what hit it. Stretch your limits in the non-stop flexibility of the new Lululemon Align No-Line Pant in select stores and at Lululemon.com.
At Strayer University, we help students like you go from, is it possible, to anything is possible by offering access to up to 10 no-cost gen ed courses, so you can reach your goals affordably and fast. Visit strayer.edu to learn more. No-cost gen ed's provided by Strayer University affiliate Sophia. Eligibility rules apply. Connect with us for details. Strayer University is certified to operate in Virginia by Chev and has many campuses, including at 2121 15th Street North in Arlington, Virginia.
We see you getting after your fitness goals. But what about those money goals? You can count on Credit Karma for a clear view of your finances and your progress, helping you see results so you can keep checking off those financial personal bests and find your way to money. Progress never felt so good. Intuit Credit Karma. Karma you can count on. Download the app today.
Hey there! We're Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy, your book besties who take the novels you love seriously. This is Jack.
And I'm Amy, and we embrace and respect modern fantasy, romance, and romantasy books written by women. And so it's in our nature to analyze these books as we would any other novel we might have dissected in school.
With our combined 13 years of literary academic training, we use our education to analyze and give voice to reasons why you may love or hate today's popular books.
This is part 2 of this week's episode, where we're discussing chapters 17 through 21 of Sarah J. Maas's second Throne of Glass novel, Crown of Midnight.
Before we dive in, don't forget about Spilt. Spoilers, perspective, interpretation, language, themes.
If you would like more information, please go back and listen to the start of part 1 of this week's episode.
So we are now in chapter 19, and it's now the next day, and we're with Chaol, and he's with the king. But his brain wanders to Celaena. Quote, he tried not to think about last night, how the brief touch of Celaena's fingers through his hair and on his face had sent a pang of desire through him so strong he wanted to grab her and pin her on the couch. It had taken all of his self-control to keep his breathing steady, to pretend that he was asleep. This is very reverse gender role of Sleeping Beauty here. You know, normally you'll get like the woman who's asleep and men touch them unconsentingly, but now you have a woman touching him. So, you know, women. But
and it's fine because he was into it.
He was into it and awake. Although I will say, as much as I'm
Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, as much as I'm like, you know, saying like we, you know, consent and asleep and, you know, women there, it's like, you know, it's sad. It's a joke. However, I will also say, like, if a man could just tuck my hair behind my ear while I'm sleeping, that's all I ask.
Consent given.
Right now.
For eternity.
Like someone breaks into my room and they're like, you gave your consent on the podcast.
Why was he pretending to be asleep in the first place?
Chaol?
Yeah.
I think he was like awake, like he was asleep and then felt her kind of like moving around and then was awake, you know, but didn't want to ruin anything. That's my mind. Celaena has completely enchanted him. And I think that that's super important because this scene here with Chaol and the king, this is the moment where his quote unquote downfall is because of how much he's struggling with staying with this line with Celaena and how that impacts his decision on keeping a secret from Nehemia. Yeah? Are you burping or are you having a moment?
You have bewitched me, body and soul.
But also not burping. You know? Quote, crossing it would call into question his loyalty to the king before him, not to mention the way it would impact his friendship with Dorian. Again, like he is just so committed to the crown, so much so that Dorian is the crown. Like that's his best friend, but that's still the crown. He is devoted to them.
So in this way, you know, we could argue that Chaol is the opposite of Dorian, but I also want to say he's the same because while Chaol is selfless to a fault because of his honor and his loyalty, where Dorian is more selfish and self-serving, there's also this aspect, which we'll get more into later, that Chaol doesn't want to disrupt the status quo. There's something in him that believes he has to stay true to his character, and this is what it means to stay true to his character, this utter loyalty to a leader and his homeland that maybe deep down he knows isn't great, but he's not going to think about it. And we've known this about Chaol since day one. Celaena, as we talked about in episode 1, has known this about Chaol since day one. And we can tell that she forgets because of this. Celaena refused to be with Dorian because he is the king's son. She doesn't stop being with Chaol, even though he is the king's captain of the guard and has shown that he is of the utmost honorability, loyalty to the crown. To me, it's a double standard. I honestly think Dorian would have been like, yeah, fuck my dad, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure he was thinking that by the end of the first book. And Celaena forgets that Chaol is so much more noble.
Yeah.
And is much more likely to stick to his guns.
So now we get into the meat and potatoes of Chaol's issues. Quote, Dorian and the king were where his loyalty lay. Without his loyalty, he was no one. Without it, he'd given up his family, his title, for nothing. Chaol follows the king blindly because Chaol follows loyalty blindly, which makes sense because he wasn't loyal to his father, he wasn't loyal to his home and his birthright, so he needs to compensate for that lack of loyalty by going against his own everything. Again, father, birthright, everything. If he's not loyal to the king, then he is no one because he is his own honor. So it really comes into a sense of identity. Like even he knows that he is nothing if not honorable. What happens when that's gone?
Exactly. I mean, and this is key to understanding Chaol and everything that happens leading up to Nehemia's death. Chaol's given up everything he is entitled to because he's so loyal to Dorian. He chose the noble thing instead of choosing to be nobility. Now, if he questions or compromises his loyalty, he's given up everything about his heritage for no reason. Now, this is going to be juxtaposed later by Celaena's will. We'll get into that eventually. But I will say that is a breaking point for Chaol, again, for a future episode. And I put this later, but I'm going to say it now. Like Jack, Chaol has to double down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
I'm going to double down on that statement. I'm doubling down on your statement. Yeah.
You did it earlier, too, with the violence. And
I don't want to say that I don't know. I've met anyone who's doubled down as hard as I do sometimes.
I've never met anyone who doubles down as hard as you do.
Yeah.
But actually, one of our listeners in the question we posted on Instagram, I was skimming. It's Sierra. Sierra said this is like the lost sunk cost fallacy, which is such a great point, which is, well, you've committed so much already, then you just have to like keep up with it. Otherwise, you've lost all the investment into it, right? It's the same idea here. He's put so much faith in this loyalty to Dorian, so much that he's given up with his family. He doesn't hear from his mom. He's lost the only loving parental figure in his life. Mm-hmm. He's lost his heritage. He's lost his brother. Yeah, it's a sunk cost fallacy for Chaol.
We're going to get now into the king's assignment, and that is for Chaol to keep an eye on Nehemia, because the king tells him, quote, it seems she's made some enemies outside of this palace as well. Ironically, this is all true.
I don't think the king knows that. Does he?
But didn't he? Because he wouldn't have told Chaol to keep an eye on her just for...
I can't remember, to be honest.
No, like I think he genuinely was surprised of like, oh, someone's out. Because the entire time I was like, oh, the king had to be a part of it. And then it truly was nothing to do with him. And the irony is that the threat is true. Because when I said the irony is like, the first time I read this, I was like, king, you're just trying to do something to her. And it's like, no, actually he's telling the truth. But let's get into Chaol's logic, shall we? Quote, while he knew that Celaena would get would be furious that he didn't tell her. He was the captain of the guard. He had fought and sacrificed nearly as much as Celaena had to get to this position. He'd let her get too close by asking her to dance. He'd let himself get too close. He did not sacrifice as much as Celaena.
Seriously, that was exactly what I was going to say.
It was, I mean, did he spend a year in Dovier? Was he training to be an assassin from the age of 8? Like, you little shit. This screams white privilege.
Yeah.
The definition of it.
And male privilege.
Male privilege. I kind of group white privilege with male privilege. But yeah, it's just the level of privilege of like, wait, I've had it hard too. No one said you didn't have it hard, but to go and try to say that other people have not had it harder than you is stupid.
Yep.
And not the point. Anyway, he is a problem. But let's dissect this thought, shall we? This is who Chaol is. He feels guilty about his relationship with Celaena and how it's distracting him from the king. Because again, any distraction from his own loyalty and his own honor is a distraction to his core of who he is. And the fact that he's even questioning his loyalty to the king right now is showing that his loyalty in general is being questioned. So he's, he is one brain cell away from having a full spiral panic attack. Yeah. Because wanting to be with a woman shouldn't mean that you're not also loyal to the king. So he sees that there's something wrong here, right? Like, it's not, if there was any other woman in the castle, he would not have an issue. It's the fact that this is Celaena. And again, if it's any other employee, it wouldn't be an issue. It's the fact that he knows that Celaena was hurt by the king, even if he doesn't know her whole Aelin past. He knows that she was enslaved because of the king.
Yeah.
Complicated feelings and emotions here.
Yes, completely agree with you. Now, I will say, and I have to give kudos to Chaol, because when the king first says there are unknown threats to Nehemia, Chaol's first reaction is to actually tell Nehemia and to protect her. Quote, I'll have extra guards watch her rooms and patrol her wing of the castle. I'll alert her immediately of there's no need to alert her or anyone. The king gave him a pointed look. She might try to use the fact that someone wants her dead as a bargaining chip, might try to make herself into a martyr of sorts. He didn't think Nehemia would do that, but Chaol kept his mouth shut. So he, again, has good instincts. He wants to protect Nehemia. He wants to tell Nehemia. The only reason he doesn't tell her, her guards, or Celaena is strictly because the king told him not to. And that's when Chaol's like, I need to double down and be a good guard. Ultimately, it's not Chaol's decision to not tell Celaena, but he decides to be a good soldier and not question authority. At this point, we transition to Dorian's point of view, and he's roaming the festival that is being set up for Holland in celebration of Holland's return, I guess. Roland catches up to Dorian and asks to talk to him and apologize for the Calaculla proposal that set Dorian off. At one point, Roland says, we're family, Dorian. And Dorian thinks, quote, family. Dorian had never really considered himself to be in an actual family, and certainly not now. If anyone found out about what had happened in that hallway yesterday, about the magic he might have, his father would kill him. He had a second son, after all. Families weren't exactly supposed to think like that, were they? So this is super tragic, and this was the point in where I was like, oh, Dorian, this is why you're selfish. No one thinks about him.
Yeah.
He is the only one who really thinks about himself. I mean, that's not true in Chaol's sense, but like Dorian feels like he's the only one really looking out for his own best interest.
Dorian would have lost it with Lilo and Stitch. He would have been like, family means no one gets left behind?
What?
What? Who said that? What rules are these?
During his conversation with Roland, Dorian thinks, quote, and if his father and the other councilmen thought that they could use Roland to win support for their dark dealings, well, then it was time for Dorian to play the game too. He could turn his father's pawn against him. Now, Dorian is stepping up. He had his moment of awareness. He's trying to do the right thing rather than the selfish thing. And though the idea of magic scares him, there's part of me that also thinks that, does Nehemia's conversation with him, does the fact that he now have magic maybe help him believe, wow, I'm more capable of things than I ever thought I could be. And I don't know that for sure, because at the same time, he sees the cages in the carnival and he thinks, quote, perhaps he belonged in one of those cages too. So he's not safe. He thinks of himself as an animal.
Mm-hmm.
But despite all that, he's trying, and he gets points for trying in my book.
Absolutely. Chaol and Celaena also appear at the carnival, and we're still in Dorian's point of view, and Celaena is just admiring all of the different tents that are being set up. And we see that, quote, Chaol as he stalked to Celaena and yanked her arm away from the black curtain. You'll lose your hand like that, the captain warned her, and she glared at him. One, it reminded me of one of the times I went to Amsterdam and I was with my friend Sam, and she had to physically, we were in the red light district, and I was just trying to have a nice conversation with one of the women working there, and she was like, stop it. And I'm like, we're having a good talk. I said her outfit was cute. So that just reminded me of that moment. However, this dynamic here is very fatherly, and it's very him being in charge of her. And this is not a good sign of them being a couple if this is the start. They are days away from boning.
It's true. It is very true. Now, at this point, the group meets Baba Yellowlegs. And Dorian thinks, quote, but this was all just a sham. That woman had probably put on a fake set of iron teeth and sheer yellow stockings and called herself Baba Yellowlegs to make carnival patrons hand over good coin. So this is another moment where Dorian is being like Celaena. He is denying magic when it's obvious to him that magic exists. He's developed his own magic. Whether or not he believes Baba Yellowlegs is a real figure, it's like when Celaena denied Mort, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's right in front of her, but she still denies it. It is a survival tactic. It's a coping mechanism, and it's a similarity that Celaena and Dorian have. And I think that's important that we see the similarities between them, because they do reconnect in this novel. They do kind of form their friendship again, and it has to be believable.
Yep.
We then move into Celaena's point of view, and there's just a lot of breadcrumbs for what happens in Assassin's Blade, and it's just a nice touch during the reread.
It is. Dorian then gives Chaol his birthday present, and it's a fancy royal horse. Quote, Chaol was backing away, hands raised. This is a gift for a prince, not... Dorian clicked his tongue. Nonsense. I'll be offended if you don't accept. I can't. Chaol views himself as not royalty once again. So when he was watching Dorian dance with the women, he was like, oh, thank God I'm not royalty. And right now he's kind of panicking, being like, wait, no, I'm not royalty. You cannot give this to me. And he doesn't value himself the way that he values a king or a prince, which again, if royalty, the king, the prince represent his loyalty, and he can't view himself in that same level, then he doesn't view himself worth being loyal to. Whoa, did I just crack something? All right, not my back, but hear me out. Let's go on this brain journey with me. If Dorian and Chaol, Dorian and the king, they are royalty. So I'm just going to say royalty. If Chaol is super loyal to royal, he is honorable, he is he is committed to the monarch. I'll just say, because it rhymes, so I'm just going to say the monarch. If that is who he is so committed to, and he cannot view himself as being worthy of the same things as those of the monarch, does that mean he can't view himself as being worthy of loyalty that he shows to the monarch?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's subservient.
Yeah.
And, people in that kind of position don't expect to be treated nicely, to be given things. So it makes sense.
Yep.
So at this point, Dorian's like, hey, so what are you doing for your birthday? And Celaena makes it very clear she's called dibs on Chaol for his birthday, which pisses Dorian off. Quote, Dorian's eyes flashed. Well, I hope you have fun, he interrupted. Chaol quickly looked back at the horse as Celaena and Dorian faced each other. Whatever familiar expressions he'd once worn were now gone. And part of her, the part that had spent so many nights looking forward to seeing that handsome face, truly mourned it. Looking at him became difficult. It's amazing how much tension there is, and therefore how much tension will be gone when Chaol is no longer an option for Celaena. It's one of our listeners wrote, I honestly don't know why Dorian and Chaol weren't OTP, because they're just so into each other.
It's true. It's true. You know what they say? Bros before hoes.
Yeah.
Chicks before dicks.
Yeah.
Besties before breasties. So.
I'm sorry, I choose breasts.
Whoa. Didn't have to lay it out there.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
I wanted to see your face.
All right. The chapter ends with Celaena going down to the tombs, despite Nehemia telling her not to. And she feels guilty about this. She's going to feel guilty in this chapter and the next chapter. Quote, because she was a miserable person, she wouldn't even trust the advice of a friend, but she wanted to go back to the tomb alone. Maybe Nehemia was wrong about the amulet being irrelevant. She feels so guilty about not listening to Nehemia's advice and going back to the tomb. And yet Nehemia's never been honest or trusted her. And I just hate how guilty she feels, especially because Nehemia's lying to her so much.
Yeah, and she's going to keep feeling guilty. And it's like reading it in hindsight, once you know everything, is like
cringe.
Sickening.
Yeah.
And SJM did it for a reason, right?
Chapter 20 starts, and Celaena goes to the tomb, and she tries to see if her necklace opens the thingy so that she could see the thingy. It's tomb lore, you know? And it doesn't work. And so Celaena thinks, quote, fine. Nehemia was right that the amulet was a dead end, and she was a wretched, horrible friend for being so distrustful and impatient. I hate the blind trust that she has, that she feels guilty about trying it. I don't think there's anything wrong with someone being like, hey, this isn't going to work. Be like, cool, I need to just test it out anyway. Right. We do that all the time of like, hey, this isn't going to happen. Be like, cool, I believe you, but
I still need to try.
I just need to try, you know?
Yeah.
And like, that should be your first sign that Nehemia is being shady as fuck, and also you shouldn't feel guilty about it. Like,
nope.
If it was like, hey, Jack, if you try to put this bracelet to turn on your car, it's not going to work. And then I did it behind your back, I wouldn't feel guilty about it. Like, you know, again, rule number 1, you shouldn't, if your friend's making you swear not to do something, maybe we should question that a little bit more.
Yep.
Especially when Nehemia is aggressively not telling Celaena shit. And Celaena knows that, and Celaena knows that Nehemia isn't telling her things. So that's the other hard part. Celena's like, she's being, I can tell there's some secrets going on, but I'm going to trust her. It's not the one to trust. Now, at this point, Celaena's having a dream, and it's all the hints about her family, has the night her family died. But mostly the hints are in metaphor. Quote, before her stretched a chasm so long it disappeared into the starlit horizon. Across the ravine was a lush, dark wood, rustling with life. So the wood is her family, and it's rustling with life, right? It's like moving. It's almost calling to her. You could say that the wood is the forest of Terrasen. It's calling to her. Basically, she is on this side, home, Terrasen, everything on the other side. What else is on the other side? Quote, the white stag watching her with ancient eyes. His massive antlers glowed in the moonlight, wreathing him in an ivory glow, just as she remembered. Moonlight is truth. We have a lot of things going on. I know she's mentioned before that the white stag is something that she saw on her way to when she was arrested, but stag is Terrasen, so let's just continue with that. But because Celaena is currently too scared to do anything with her future, her dream ends like this, quote, so Celaena did not cross, and the stag turned away, his steps near silent as he disappeared between the tangled trees of the ageless wood. It's almost like that blind faith trust moment. Like, it's like, hey, I need you to cross this ravine and not doubt me and just come here. But she's too afraid. And it sucks. But, you know, your girl's traumatized.
Yeah. I mean, what we learn later is basically the stag represents King Brennan, which is basically like a god-like figure to Celaena and the people of Terrasen. So when, quote, the stag had come closer, his head now angled as if inviting her to join him, it is so very clearly a call to action. She's been getting hit over the head with these calls to action. And so for her to say no to this god-like figure that she basically worshipped, you know, she's like, nope, I'm not going to make that leap of faith. It's actually, I think I was actually more shocked that she was like, nope, not going to do it, instead of like being ready to, because we've seen her start to think about Terrasen, home. Maybe there can be good in this world. Maybe there is a force that would be willing to stand up against the king. So I think I was a little bit disappointed when I read this, because I felt like there should have been more hesitance, yes, but like maybe she was about to make the leap, or maybe right before she wakes up.
That's fair, because it's been leading her up, guiding her into getting ready to like make that leap there.
Yeah.
I think because we didn't read the quote, but in this moment, there's also, she looks down and there's like ice cold water river, and it's what happened to her, right? The night that her parents died, she was caught in that river. So I think there's also a lot of layers of, I mean, at least it makes sense a little bit why she'd step back a little bit, because you're entering old wounds here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's trauma.
Yeah.
Which, yes, makes sense.
But I agree. There should have been that moment of temptation to cross. This ad break is shorter than Manon's patience.
I just found out that my doctor of 7 years is leaving. And so I need to find a new doctor. And I am so excited to use for the first time ZocDoc.
I'm so excited for you. I am obsessed with ZocDoc. This is about to be my healthiest year yet, because I keep going to the doctors because it's so freaking easy.
ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. I have had my annual appointment delayed 3 times this year, and now my doctor's leaving. I'm so frustrated.
Appointments made through ZocDoc happen so fast. Every time I have used it, I normally get appointments between 24 to 72 hours of my booking. And sometimes you can even get same day appointments, because I have zero patience.
I love that we can book in-network appointments with more than 100,000 doctors across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, primary care, urgent care, and in my case, a wellness check.
And all the doctors are rated by actual patients.
Jack has used this. I'm going to use it, and you should too. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/booktalk to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today.
That's ZocDoc.com/booktalk. BOOKTALK. That's ZocDoc.com/booktalk.
This episode is brought to you by Dogfish Head Craft Brewery. The Grateful Dead and Dogfish Head have gotten the band back together with the release of Grateful Dead Juicy Pale Ale, a light-bodied pale ale brewed with sustainable Kernza grains, granola, and heaps of good karma for a refreshing brew that's music to your taste buds. Available nationwide. Visit dogfish.com to find Grateful Dead Juicy Pale Ale in your neck of the woods. Dogfish Head Craft Brewery is located in Milton, Delaware. Please drink responsibly.
Get your mother-loving ears on, because your big-time radio DJ's got news. PayPal lets you pay for stuff in-store, online, or over time. Now that's a tune. You can pay your own way. Don't just pay, baby. PayPal.
Learn more at paypal.com.
En momentos intensos necesitas una hidratación que esté a tu nivel. Hidrátate con Liquid IV, científicamente diseñada para reponer rápidamente electrolitos y líquidos perdidos durante tu ejercicio. Hidrata tu ejercicio favorito con Liquid IV, formulada con 3 veces la cantidad de electrolitos que la bebida deportiva líder del mercado, más 8 vitaminas y nutrientes. También disponible sin azúcar. Abre, vierte, vive más. Conoce más en liquidiv.com.
Chaol looks for Celaena. So now it's the next day, and we're in Chaol's point of view, and he was like, she is late to training. I am going to go yell at her and maybe chuck her out. And he sees Nehemia waiting in her room. I just want to say, why are we not more suspicious? Okay, you gave a good answer.
I'm sorry.
No, but why is she there? She could have left still. You know what? Okay, I was like, why is Nehemia there? Was she there for the tomb? Amy said
they agreed to have word mark lessons together every morning. Now, did she take advantage of the fact that Celaena's not there? Probably yes.
Yeah, because why would anyone just be like, I'm going to chill here and just sit in the room? And also, how does she know about the anniversary of her parents' death unless she knows exactly who she is?
Exactly. So we now move into chapter 21, and even Chaol is thrown off by the fact that Nehemia knows the anniversary of Celaena's parents' death. And as readers, we should be too. Nehemia does admit to never having been told about Celaena's parents and the day that they died.
Mhm.
So our spidey senses should be tingling. Chaol thinks, quote, what sort of secrets was she protecting for her friend? And what sort of secrets did Nehemia herself keep that had caused the king to have her watched? I don't think it's wrong of Chaol to suspect Nehemia right now. Again, this is among her mistakes that she is throwing out there because of her desperation.
Mm-hmm.
It reveals a lot for her to be like, oh yeah, Celaena didn't tell me, but I know it's the day of her parents' death.
Yeah.
You shouldn't know that.
Yeah.
And but I do think that's intentional on SJM's part. I think that she's working hard to get our attention here so that it's not surprising when these secrets about Nehemia come out.
Because Nehemia is the queen of just knowing everything and not saying shit, but gives oddly specific clues, she tells Chaol this, quote, if I were to guess, I'd say she didn't want to spend one moment of daylight in this city, especially in this castle. Because she knows who Celaena is. It just cracks me up. It's like, Nehemia, the deliverer of one-liners, is all she is. We are now with Celaena, and she's just, rode away. She's with Fleetfoot, and she's thinking about how it's been a year since she essentially tried to die by assisted suicide, essentially, like death by guards. And how it's different because this year she doesn't feel that same feeling. And she thinks back to the day of Endovir, quote, blood soaked her clothes and her bare arms, and Celaena wiped it from her face. What we know is that this is the anniversary of her parents' death, which means the year before when she, quote unquote, lost it, it was the anniversary of her parents' death. So it's, so it's very much her trying to save people and kill those that have hurt others. She can't save her parents. She can't kill the people who killed her parents, but she can start a lot of shit here and now. And also it's very symbolic, right? The way that she was covered with blood, the same way that she was covered with blood the night her parents died. Celaena said it before in book 1 that she didn't have a plan on surviving that day. And she reminds us of that, quote, this was not a fight for escape. I really want to emphasize that she was ready to die that day, the day of her parents' anniversary of their death. That is how much she loves Chaol and how much her life has changed, where she was ready to go, not be a part of this world anymore. And then now it's completely different.
That's a great point. I also want to call out a line at this point when Celaena is thinking about the fact that she was going to die, or she expected herself to die, that I loved just because of the writing. Sorry, this is actually Celaena talking about a woman who's been beaten by the overseers. Quote, she would die by tomorrow if her wounds were not treated. Even if they were, she'd probably die from infection. And Dovir amused itself like that. I just thought that was a really, really amazing way to personify this prison, which is a place. It doesn't have human qualities, but the fact that it is able to amuse itself makes it malevolent for malevolence sake. And it just makes it bigger than, it makes it larger than life. And I just think it's a chef's kiss line.
Absolutely.
Now, Celaena decided it was her time to shine when, quote, the last hour of full daylight when the warm sun lulled many to sleep was when the sentries went lax on watch before the evening inspection. Now, this is strategic, but she is also an assassin and she's comfortable in the dark, and choosing daylight in the afternoon is counter to Celaena's instinct and her training. Going back to Jack's point, it reminds us of Celaena's intention to die, to be seen, to create a spectacle and send a message. But I think it also conveys to us her strength. Like, she was able to kill 23 people without the cover of darkness and get within an inch of the wall of Endovir, which no one had ever done before.
Yeah.
So she's badass.
Yep. So at this point, she's reflected on, what happened the year before. She goes back to the castle. She goes back to her room. She's emotionally drained. And Chaol is there for her. He's trying to be there for her. And he knows that someone should at least be there for her. Quote, Nehemia probably should have been here, another child of a conquered kingdom. But he didn't want Nehemia to be the one she turned to. And despite his loyalty to the king, he couldn't turn away from her. Not today. Chaol understands the line in the sand. That is Celaena and her complicated relationship with the king. And where Chaol stands on that line, it's a complicated.
So I want to read this next quote about Chaol because Chaol is a fucking horny boy. Quote, he shoved that feeling down, even as the silken texture of her hair against his fingers made him want to bury his face in it, and the smell of her, laced with mist and night, had him grazing his nose against her skin. There were other kinds of comfort that he could give her than mere words, and if she needed that kind of distraction, he shoved down that thought too, swallowing it until he nearly choked on it. So what we're saying is if Celaena had asked Chaol for sex, Chaol would have done it. But he's noble. He suspects she's a virgin. He's not going to offer. And, of course, there's that invisible line he's created for himself. I forgot how horny he is. He is so fucking horny for her. It's almost like he gains honor by depriving himself.
He's like honor edging himself.
Yes, absolutely.
I will say, as someone with a dead daddy, 23 years? Wow, it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I've had several boyfriends, guys, situationships and stuff over the years. It is amazing how almost all of them felt like they could heal me with their dick on anniversary days. Where it was like, hey, I'm really sad. I just would like to, everyone knows, anniversary of my dad's time. It's always like, hey, go grab a cake, go do something. It is something every year, every person knows. And I've had, again, relationships, guys, situationships. And it's always like, and they'll be there for me, but then they want to be there for me. There's something about a dead parent that makes men horny. Oh, I've been be your father figure. Put your tiny hand in mine. I will be your preacher, teacher till the end of time. That is men. That's men right there. In this very romantic moment, though, Celaena tells him this, quote, I can't tell if I should be ashamed of wanting to hold you on this day or grateful that despite what happened before now, it somehow brought me to you. Let's reflect on that sentiment, knowing what we know. Like, she has gone through so much shit to come here. And I get that. Like, I hate that feeling, and I know that feeling because it's like, I personally like who I am. I like I like everything about me, but like, I like everything that I like my personality. I like where I've come. I also know I wouldn't be this person if I haven't lost the ridiculous amount of family members I have lost to come to be this place. So if that's like a feeling I don't like, I can only imagine what Celaena is struggling with when you put that towards times 100.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a great point. And I can understand why she would feel conflicted. In reaction to what Celaena has just said, Chaol, quote, was so startled by the words that he let go and stepped back. He had his obstacles to overcome, but so did she. Perhaps more obstacles than he'd even realized. So this is a moment of clarity for Chaol. He senses that maybe Celaena has emotional baggage that makes her not ready, that makes her not available. He hasn't dealt with his. She hasn't dealt with hers. Like, everybody has emotional baggage here. And I'm not saying you have to get rid of emotional baggage to be in a relationship. But what I am saying is that just like Celaena forgets how noble Chaol is, Chaol forgets how much Celaena still needs to grow and overcome internally.
Yep.
Ultimately, they're just so horny for each other, they forget each other's true selves.
Yeah.
And it's going to bite them in the ass.
That's why they should have acted on their horniness much earlier than this.
Yeah. It's short-lived.
I just want to know what happened in that broom closet. Like, I know what happens in the broom closet, but I
But
want to know.
I'm sure someone's written a fan fiction.
I want to know. Did you ever see that TikTok I posted of last week's clip? I'm gonna play it for you now. You don't need to see anything. You just need to hear it.
What does he shift into? Does he shift into an animal?
I can't remember. And you know what, though? I want that sex scene. I want that sex scene.
No, I don't.
Bad.
I do not.
Detail it for me, SJM. Make me go on Pornhub and see how it works in real life.
He would see it. He would service her. That's all. That's all it would be. Which is acceptable. However,
my Google searches are about to be so weird tonight.
I want that sex scene bad. That's how I feel about this. Now, let's get into some breadcrumbs and broomsticks, but first the breadcrumbs.
Starting with breadcrumbs in chapter 17, when Celaena is waltzing by herself, quote, Celaena waltzed with herself. It's redundant.
Did you write this or did I?
I did.
Haha.
She even held the edge of her dark cloak in one hand as if it were the skirts of a ball gown. How does she know how to waltz? Even if you assume it was part of her assassin training, we're seeing her act as if she were noble.
Mm-hmm. In chapter 18, thinking about a world with a kingdom like Terrasen that would fight the king of Adarlan, quote, and in that world, Celaena swallowed hard, she and Chaol would never be a normal boy and girl. Because Celaena is a princess, also foreshadowing their end.
Still in chapter 18, Dorian is outside Celaena's room when she comes back from Chaol's. Quote, I was looking for Nehemia, but her servants said she was out. I thought they meant here. Then I thought you two might be out for a stroll.
Mm-hmm.
Nehemia's out with rebels.
Mm-hmm. Still in chapter 18, when Celaena looks at Dorian, she sees, quote, there was something in his eyes that reminded her of a world long since burned, a glimmer of color and power that still stalked the edges of her nightmares. More magic foreshadowing and the fact that Celaena knows exactly what it is because of her past.
In chapter 19, when Dorian, Celaena, and Chaol leave the carnival, quote, hide from your fate all you like, Baba Yellowlegs said as they turned away, but it shall find you soon.
Beautiful delivery.
Thank you. But it shall soon find you. I said it incorrectly. They're ignoring the call to action, and Bobby Yellowlegs' threat isn't empty.
No. Chapter 20, Dorian thinking about the special ring club, quote, impressed murmurs and a nod from his father to Roland made Dorian's jaw clench. 3 matching rings, 3 black rings to signify what? That they were bound in some way to each other? How had Roland gotten past his father and Parrington's defenses so quickly? We already talked about this, but I like my note. Use those brain cells. Just use the last 2 brain cells you have. Make that connection. It's evil magic shit.
Woo. And finally, in chapter 21, Chaol notices that Celaena's eyes are, quote, turquoise and gold, which is a little hint as to how he's able to find out who she truly is later in the book.
All right, let's pull up some broomsticks. We got a fair amount of responses. We got some DMs. If you'd like to cover the DMs.
Oh, sure. So the question we asked our listeners on Instagram today was, if Chaol is honorable, defend why he still serves the king. Do you want to tell us some themes of what you're seeing, Jack?
No. I was waiting for you to. Okay, so someone says, he's not free-thinking enough yet. To him, honor is equivalent to following rules, which means following and serving his king. It's probably why he still has some guilt about leaving his home, becoming the head of his house, and taking over his dad's role in the future is also equivalent to following rules and roles. I think that both Dorian having magic and Celaena are the 2 things that challenge this mindset, that following rules is equivalent to being good. I think they're the first people that highlight following is not always the same as doing the right thing. I like that.
So Faith said something very similar in her DM. I can excuse almost all of Chaol's behavior on the fact that he's human. He doesn't have amazing assassin abilities or magic. Chaol is a human who took an oath. All he has is his word and a limited world. All he has is his word and a limited worldview perspective. That in and itself makes his deconstruction of his loyalty to the king all the more impressive.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
There's a couple people that have said propaganda. This person has it a little bit farther, says a little bit more on that. Propaganda. Chaol has been fed a narrative about his world when it started to crumble. Very true. He adjusts and tries to adapt, but changing your whole world framework is hard. I think that's a good point. He is part of a conquering nation. The amount of propaganda that he was raised on, of saying this is the right thing, this is why your father's gone to war, and this is why like life's so good now because we conquered all these things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's, yeah, I mean, it is hard to let go.
I just found out that my doctor
belief
of
system
7
that
years
you've
is
been
leaving. And
fed
so
since
I need to
birth.
find a new doctor, and I am so excited to use for the first time
Lizane
ZocDoc.
says
I'm so excited for
because
you.
he
I am
puts his
obsessed with
definition
ZocDoc. This
of
is about to
honor,
be my healthiest
which
year
is
yet because I
devotion
keep
without
going
question,
to the doctors because
above
it's so
morals.
freaking easy.
It's easier to
ZocDoc
stay
is
in
a
something you
free
know,
app and
even though
website
it's
where you can
toxic, than
search
to break
and
the
compare
pattern and do the
high-quality
right thing.
in-network doctors.
He's basically
and click to
gaslighting
instantly
himself.
book
Yeah.
an appointment. I
Similar
have had
here.
my
When you've been
annual appointment
brainwashed, it
delayed
takes a
3
second
times
to
this year.
realize
And
you're
now my
wrong.
doctor's
You're not going to
leaving.
snap
I'm so
out of it of
frustrated.
22 years of
Appointments
conditioning
made through
overnight.
ZocDoc
A
happen
lot of
so
conditioning.
fast.
I
Every
would
time
almost,
I have
I mean,
used
am I
it,
starting
I
to make
normally get
religious
appointments
parallels?
between 24 to 72
Always.
hours
I'll
of
always
my
find
birth.
religious
Always.
parallels.
Sometimes you can even get same day appointments because I have zero patience.
I see him.
love that
I
we can
believe
book
Chaol sees
in-network
himself as
appointments
serving
with
Dorian,
more than
not the king.
100,000 doctors across
Did you go through all the
every
DMs?
specialty,
There was
from
just a
mental
couple.
health to
There was-
dental
yeah.
health, primary care, urgent care, and in my case, a wellness check.
And
I
all
think
the
Chaol
doctors
has
are
always been
rated
there
by
because of
actual
Dorian
patients.
and
Jack
how
has
they
used
aren't
this.
OTP.
I'm
I'll
gonna
never
use
get.
it,
Oh, that's what the
and
one that
should
you read.
too. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/book talk to find and instantly book a
Are you looking at
top-rated
some?
doctor today.
That's
yeah, I am.
ZocDoc.
Would you like to look with your mouth as well?
.com/book
So
talk.
you're just like reading. I'm like, would you like to read?
No, I was trying to find
That's
one that you hadn't read.
ZocDoc.com/book talk.
Smithers says he defends the institution of the monarchy rather than the specific existing king. I guess that's true. I mean, because again, he doesn't want to really examine the king because I don't think he will find anything pleasant. He's defending the patriarchy as we know it in Otterlin.
Yeah.
And because that's Dorian's future.
Yep. Someone says frontal lobe is still cooking. He's been raised to trust. He's been groomed into this position since he was a child. I think that's a fair thing to talk about, though, is like he has been groomed for it, even though he left his father. Why would he have left his father if he didn't think that he would have a position, if he didn't think that he was safer or would have a better life here?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, the king has taken advantage of the conditioning that has been done to Chaol. Chaol has blind loyalty. Why else would he be captain of the guard at 22? Because he's easy to manipulate.
Yep. He has no evidence to believe the world is different from what he had been told after book 3. He doesn't even know that he's not in book 3 yet.
What?
I said Chaol doesn't even know that he's not in book 3.
It's true.
Someone, because he's a bitch boy.
Yeah. Someone says he stays blind on purpose and waits for Dorian's cue, afraid to want to change in a system that favors him.
I don't think he follows Dorian, at least not in this book. I don't see him following any of Dorian's cues because they don't talk enough for this one. Yeah, I think he's blind, but I don't think he's blind on Celaena just yet.
Yeah. He has no frontal lobe to think for himself. He's literally a baby. Chaol serves the people of the country, not the king. His actions do not echo those of the king's because he is constantly trying to be a good man and make honorable decisions.
I love more frontal lobe talking. Before Celaena, he had no one pushing back on his limited worldview. He needs to deconstruct a lot. That is fair.
Yep.
I love our listeners, love their input on these. I love the questions that we're now asking them where it's like specific.
Yeah. Well, and they're providing great answers.
They're providing great answers. Okay. Oh, you have a question for me.
So, Jack, we see Chaol struggle with his honor and Celaena struggle with her destiny. Can the two of them even have a successful relationship when they are driven and haunted by different things?
I think one of our listeners said it best, where destiny does not necessarily follow rules. Honor, and the way Chaol views honor, is following rules. Honor does not mean following rules, but how Chaol views it is having to follow rules. Like there's no, it's so much so that it's not like there's a rule specifically said here of do not sleep with the king's champion. Like that's not a rule. That's just kind of what, like an implied rule. I think that when Celaena is going to start, like where it starts to get like really messed up for between the two of them is when she's about to confess that she hasn't killed any of the men that the king has told her. And that's going to be the thing that rocks him, right? Like that's the one that's going to, out of all of the things that she's confessed up until this point, none of it will have been what as shocking to him as you didn't follow the rules, the command.
Right. You defied orders, even though I was judging you for following those orders.
Yeah. Like there's a lot that goes into that moment. It says a lot about him. And Celaena's path, there's nothing about her path that follows rules, right? Like her entire destiny, I believe she disobeys every single rule there may ever have been ruled for. And until I think Chaol does come to the conclusion that you cannot follow rules in order to be good or to do the right thing. At that point, she's gone. I mean, not just physically, but emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. I mean, they're both being challenged in a way that asks them to take the next step in their journey. And neither is quite willing to take that next step. And for them to... Now, I think that if they could have made the steps in tandem, right? Chaol to understand that being honorable does not always mean following rules.
Yeah.
For Celaena to accept maybe her destiny. Maybe Chaol could have gone on the journey with her.
Yeah.
But because he doubles down and he realizes too late what she means to him, and because of his just rigidity in general, this is the breaking point for them.
I think his rigidity is what stops him from getting Celaena to forgive him, because it's not like what he did is unforgivable because of just how much was set up against him and how much she has also kept from him, right?
Right.
There was, I truly believe, a moment where he could have fought for her, and he gave her so much space because that is, in many ways, the honorable thing to do, right? Is like he's letting her work through it, but then he had to arrest her and keep her in the dungeon, and he felt really guilty, and he's just trying to give her he's trying to do the honorable thing, when in that moment, if he had fought for her and if he had been willing to travel with her, and he'd been willing to say, you're it. Because at this point, Celaena has said, you are it. You are home. Yep. I have found my way to you. You are it. And Chaol doesn't know how to have someone be it without meaning he has to give up a lot of other things. Like right now, his honor and his loyalty is it. It's sad to see the beginning of their downfall before they even start. This is the first time that I feel like we've seen the most setup for their downfall.
Yeah, I agree. It is very Romeo and Juliet. A way where they don't both die at the end.
And they both move on with other people.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy. Next week, we'll be exploring chapters 22 through 26 of Crown of Midnight.
We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. We would also love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our form at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a future mini episode or on a Patreon exclusive episode.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk. Bye.
Bye.
The search for truth never ends. Introducing June's Journey, a hidden object mobile game with a captivating story. Connect with friends, explore the Roaring 20s, and enjoy thrilling activities and challenges while supporting environmental causes. After 7 years, the adventure continues with our immersive travels feature. Explore distant cultures and engage in exciting experiences. There's always something new to discover. Are you ready? Download June's Journey now on Android or iOS.